Today I'm going to be talking about the occult hiding of the Fractal Universe and how to make sense of this ancient mythology. The occultists obviously have their origins in the mystery schools. It is well known that the secret of Hermes is fundamental to the ancient alchemical ideas. And the as above, so below concept has been brought through the ages and went into hiding during the era of the witchcraft persecution. These mystery schools were then infiltrated by the controlling elite because they were interested in the power. And this power was then abused. And there's a little book that I picked up. I'm not suggesting anyone should get it, by Manny Palmer Hall, who was a 33-degree Mason, who warns about the infiltration of the ego and the black magic that results, the personal power and the advantage of the individual over the advantage of the collective. So you have white and black magic in effect. They paid no heed to him. In 1929 he wrote that book, and in that book there are many references to the magician, to the concepts of as above, so below. I believe that Manny Palmer Hall was trying to redirect the Masonic order, because he was a 33rd degree Mason, and warn them of coming off track. But of course they paid no heed, because they wanted to control and suppress the whole of humanity. Each degree of Freemasonry enslaves the one below it. Anyone who's a Freemason is taking a step on that pyramid structure. So the first degree Mason is probably the worst. But, they may not understand the occultist origins, because when they get to the second, there's information that's available not to the first. When they get to the third, the same to the second, to the third, to the fourth, and when you get up to the 33rd degree Mason, you know exactly why they put skulls on altars. In fact, I downloaded a document called the Knights of Kadosh, which is the 32nd degree Masonic order, and there is a requirement for a skull on an altar when the person passes this degree of Masonic order. So, anyway, the occult origins go back to the understanding of the fractal universe. And so the whole of this talk is bringing forward the nature of the universe, which is fractal. The Buddhists tell us that an atom is like a solar system. That concept is somewhat, with a nucleus and particles floating around a nucleus, somewhat accepted, although the terminology wouldn't be accepted. So what I want to do now is go to the Hopi mythology, the Kachinas, and I want to talk about this in terms of the true fractal nature of what they were describing. Now, obviously, the Illuminati now already know that the universe is fractal, and so they then have to destroy the truth held within Hopi mythology and other mythologies, all the world mythologies, and come up with a new age movement that aliens and spaceships or whatever they want. They know that particle physics at a quantum level are reflected at the universal levels. But they're trying to sell us those as spaceships. So, we will witness the return of two brothers who helped to create this world. So we're talking about two brothers Pohangahoa and Polangahoa, which one will sit over the South Pole, one will sit over the North Pole. In the final, later on, it will be joined by its uncle, who is the red Kachina. So that's an unusual thing. They're also they travel in flying shields, and they will bring many of the star family with them. So they're coming from space. This is coming out from outside space. But I want to try and now just introduce some quantum physics. I'm not going to go too deeply into it. I have studied the Orbar wave, and so I understand the processes that undergoes, and I understand that is fractal, and I understand that the Orbar wave is string theory. There's some images there from the mathematics and the images from my data sets. So what we have is a binding of three particles. Notice how they're changing colours from red to blue. That's interesting. Red and blue Kachinas. We have three orbs that are bound together, but obviously these triangular orb shapes seen in the sky are spaceships. We have an interesting phenomenon. So let's talk about the Earth. The Earth has lost its charge, so it requires new charge. How would it get new charge? Well, it has charge delivered to it, or the linear mechanistic model's right. So you've got two choices really. Its spin, it's slowing down. So in these three particles now, these fundamental elementary particles, it has charge, color, mass, and spin, or color, charge, mass, and spin. Now, if it's fractal, these can be extremely large, but they're still bound in a single state called a quark. You can call them whatever you want, because there's a number of these elementary particles. So I want to talk about the virtual particle, because you have to try and get an image of what is going on at this quantum state, and bring it to the universal state, or as above, so below. The virtual particle appears and disappears. I believe that this is a particle that gains charge. It is then seen. This is then sold as an alien spaceship, cloaking and uncloaking. So the virtual particle becomes seen, delivers its charge, and it disappears again. So that is my take on the virtual particle, or an in and out particle. There's also a thing in this spin. There's a spin charge separation, and I will do another video on induction as well, which is where through spin charge is sent to the surface of a sphere. But spin charge separation occurs and separates three fundamental particles: a spin-on, a holon, and an orbiton. So that's what occurs with electrons. And so I want to now try and explain. So I'm probably losing people now. So there's a thing called quantum tunneling. I call it the as above, so below tunneling. And it happens on the edge of our solar system. So we can imagine that the edge of our solar system, and I'm gonna now describe it very well. There are particles who want to come into the edge of our solar system. So now I'm going to describe it in a different way, just so people can understand it. Our Earth, let's say Gaia is having a birthday party, and she's invited all the people who are going to bring her the presents that she wants. That is spin, charge, and the mass. because she's a bit, Gaia is a bit run down. And so this fundamental particle, which is obviously not at a quantum state now, is waiting at the door of the nightclub. It's pretty damn cold. It's confined, and all the other particles are pushing to get into our solar system because of the birthday party, the rebirthing of our Earth. As these particles push on the door into our solar system, they separate through a process called quantum tunneling. So they're forced through. So the spin-on and the holon, which is the one is the charge, the other is the spin, get through into our solar system, leaving the uncle, the red Kachina, the blue Kachina, on the outside. These then come to the Earth. One sits over the north, delivering its spin. The other sits over the south, delivering spin charge. And the Earth undergoes a change in rotation. Now this is pretty weird stuff, and there's probably these nephews, Pohangahoa, Polangahoa, are explained by this process to me. They then talk about bringing star beings with them, and this is a pretty interesting fundamental of particle physics, which probably nobody will ever have come across. It's a thing called a social holon. Now, we've seen orbs that group together and they all look the same, and they look like a community of orbs. These are the star beings, and so I'll read you they can become separated. An illustration is best described by a flock of geese. Each goose is an individual holon. The flock make up a social holon. Although the flock moves as one unit when flying and is directed by choices of the lead goose, the flock itself is not mandated to follow the lead goose. Another way to consider this would be a collective activity that has the potential for independent internal activity at any given moment. And so we have a holon that behaves like a flock of geese with an individual choice in it. Now, doesn't that sound like consciousness to you? Quantum consciousness. Why would any particle? I mean, you could say, oh well, it's free will of the holon. Anyway, that's we've seen this in the orbs. They group together. Some will deliver their energy to plants, so they'll break with the social holon type of idea. And eventually, these the two nephews are then joined by the third particle, the orbiton, which then affects our orbit. So we have something that affects our spin, alters the spin direction of the Earth, increases the charge by the chargon, and the orbiton changes our orbit. Were the Hopi telling us that the universe is fractal? Were they just telling us that the blue Kachina is a fundamental particle which is fractal? I'm pretty sure that these things are distinct possibilities of what we can expect. Does this concern me? No, it doesn't. The Hopi remembered this mythology. They remembered the shaking of the earth and the return of the two brothers. The one sits over the North Pole, attracted by the charge of the North Pole. The other sits over the South Pole, attracted by the charge of the South Pole, to be joined by the blue Kachina and then eventually by the purifier. I think that if they remembered this, they survived it. I don't think that we should overly concern ourselves about anything that we can't change. There's no way that we can fire a rocket at somewhat a massless particle. They certainly will be creating an alien invasion if this is true and if we see it. So I have to add the evidence that I hold in regards to all these things. I'm an evidence-based person. And what we have is a huge orb attached to the sun. So now these orbs are supposed to be specks in front of a camera lens, and now showing themselves attaching to the sun, delivering net energy. Is it delivering spin or charge? Or is it exchanging energy? So I scaled up the drawing. You will get 15 of these orbs across the diameter of the sun. And what is interesting is you'll get 110 Earths across the diameter of the sun. And so this is massive in comparison to our sun. The orb that attached to the sun would hold 7¼ Earths in its diameter. So that circle that you see in the image, and that is only 7 Earths in it, would represent the size, the potential size of this object that attached to the sun that we did not see arriving. Did not see it in any shape or form. So the blue Kachinas, when they're split, we're not likely to see them. Not unless they have the mass. And so we'll go back to the mythology. They will bring their flying shields and star families with them. And this is just the Hopi mythology. And as these objects are attracted to the poles, they will deliver their spin to the North and South Pole. Stopping the Earth's rotation and turning it in the other direction. Now that is what the mythology is telling me in relation to the fractal universe and my study of orbs. Do I want to see it? Certainly not. Is it necessary? Well, it is necessary. If the Earth has got to be recharged, then it's necessary. And what I'm going to do now is just go into other mythology, just to give you a comparison of how the Illuminati have stolen what is happening, truly happening in the universe. The universe is fractal. We see the fractals in nature. We can observe the fractal nature of the universe. And the Mayan mythology believe that in the fifth sun we will enter the age of ether, the fifth element. Carlos Barrios, one of the Mayan elders, states there will be a fifth element to reckon with at the time of the fifth sun. That is the element of ether. And this unveiling, which also extends to the Hopi mythology, is the unveiling of the ether. The particle that creates the universe, the gods. We will be seeing this in our skies. They will be seeing the blue and red kachinas at their dances. as the earth becomes more charged, so they will witness more of what we did in our ancient times. We had an understanding of this stuff. And I'm just really trying to prepare people. Will I see this in my lifetime? It doesn't really matter. It was seen in the past. It was seen by our ancient ancestors. They knew the nature of the universe. They knew the fractal. In fact, they knew more about the workings of the universe than we do. Or, not that the Illuminati scientists do. The other scientists that deliver the Illuminati agenda. So we have the scientists who know the score, and that is not delivered to us. We are kept in the dark from that truthful science. The amount of infrared telescopes that have been built, and that military people have been visiting the South Pole telescope, suggests that they truly understand what is happening in the infrared. And of course, all these particles at this moment can only be viewed in the infrared. And so we have the return of the gods, we have the return of ether, and I hope that this makes some sense to people. There's nothing to be worried about. What is, and we were born into this age for a purpose.